Welcome, everybody. We're here today with our Executive Dean Emeritus, Jan Jones-Schenk, and our Academic Vice President and Dean, Janelle Sokolowich, from the College of Health Professions. Thanks for coming, ladies. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having us.
So we're going to start with you, Jan. Congratulations on your recent retirement.
Thank you, Marnie.
Super exciting.
It is.
And we're so happy that you're going to continue to be with us as Executive Dean Emeritus and working on the Advisory Council and hopefully doing some contract work with us into the future. So you are off, but you're still going to be with us, and we're super happy about that.
Yeah. Thank you, Marnie. I can't even imagine being completely separated from WGU. It's been such an amazing connection and experience, and so I'm happy for this transition period.
Yeah, so are we. So, but I'd like to start with you today. You started the College of Health Professions. It's been 16 years ago, and you have essentially, I would say, revolutionized nursing education in many ways and really taught the entire health professions education ecosystem a lesson on how it's done. So I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about that history. Like, as you reflect on the last decade and a half, what are some of the lessons learned, and where do you see us kind of going next?
Well, it's that's a very kind way to represent my contribution. So thank you for that. But I think what we've learned is that there are so many aspects of nursing education that have been vested in these long traditional methods and ways. And so when we first were pushing forward with our new vision of competency-based, for example, nursing education, not very well accepted in the traditional nursing programs, and not really very well accepted by regulators and boards of nursing. And so there was a lot of skepticism, a lot of worry, and I think we've changed minds. I love the statement that Scott made the other night about, you have to be prepared to be misunderstood for a long time. Yeah. And that was more than a decade of being misunderstood by all of these different groups. And today, the American Association for Colleges of Nursing just recently issued their new standards for nursing education. And along with that, a recommendation that all nursing programs be competency-based within 5 years. Wow. Yeah. That's pretty incredible when I think about where we started with them. The other thing I would say is, with our pre-licensure nursing program, which I think is going to just be a rocket ship now at a time when there's such a terrific need for new nurses, was also largely misunderstood because it uses an alternative clinical education model, really embeds these students into practice very early on. So the transition from education to practice is not that big dissonance that currently exists that results in a third of nurses leaving practice in 2 years. So I think there's some things that we've learned and some things that we've done that will carry on and help with these upcoming shortages.
Absolutely. And I wanted to ask you about this moment that we're in now. And there have been gaps and shortages in healthcare professionals for a long time, but certainly COVID has exacerbated that, and it's changed so many things. How do you think it's going to change nursing education and health education more broadly in the next couple of years?
Well, I think the gaps between practice and education have to be resolved, but I also think that in our world, where the student is the center of everything we do, and truly is, I mean, not just words on a page, what we are teaching students to do also is to have their voice and be advocates for their own practice. And so I think that is going to be transformative. Our students being in positions of leadership, which many are with over 95,000 alums, our students being in positions of practice, they're going to become transformers of the system and are already doing that.
Yeah. 95,000 alums is just, it's really mind-boggling is what I would call it, for that to be true after such a short period of time, and to think about the impact that they're having, and to understand that this work that you've been doing is much more than just education. It is almost a movement, and it's creating a cascade of impacts across the country on public health that are so critical in this time. So just amazing.
Thank you.
Amazing work.
Yeah, for that.
And Janelle, so how are we going to build on all this impact as we move into the future? What's the plan?
I think there's just a bigger plan than nursing. All of healthcare has been impacted by the pandemic, but even prior to the pandemic, we really need to start pushing the boundaries of what we've done as practitioners. And so for us in the college, our goal will be to expand really in 5 different areas. We'll continue to expand nursing, as Jan alluded to, with pre-licensure and expanding access. One of the goals that Scott and I have for the college is that it's not just expanding the portfolio, but also the student demographic. And so by opening up pre-licensure, we can do something that hasn't been done very well in nursing, which is to expand access to those who are from multiple diverse backgrounds. That's going to be the requirement in order to really fill the gap, because one of the reasons the gap exists is because prior to Jan's work and building out this college, there was this great separation. And so you ended up with the majority within nursing, and it wasn't on accident.
Yeah.
And so we're going to really push beyond and expand access. So we're going to move into allied health, really expanding those type of roles. A lot of that was done when Jan helped to develop the Bachelor's in Science and Health Services coordination degree that we have. Part of that is really expanding our entry into allied health. Care coordinators are just as needed as nurses. And so we're expanding those programs. We'll move into other areas of healthcare. The other impact for pandemic was respiratory therapists. Of course, they were at the forefront, although not mentioned as much. They were at the forefront since it was a respiratory illness. And so we're going to expand access to those practitioners. We'll move into leadership and transformation and really try to think through dynamic healthcare leadership opportunities. We began that work, Jan began that work with the Masters in Health Leadership. And so we'll continue to expand that, really looking at the whole health system. So thinking about the actual bedside practitioner. With our advanced practice nursing that we did beginning of this year, we launched our family nurse practitioner. We'll launch the psychiatric nurse practitioner degree here soon. So really moving the practice and thinking about the whole spectrum of healthcare and healthcare delivery.
Yeah, that is so exciting. And the other thing while we're talking about this, I'd love to get you to talk about a little bit with our audience is, you have some really interesting thoughts and kind of emerging methodology for understanding how to really attack the problem of these talent gaps at a regional level or at a micro regional level, and work with our regional vice presidents and our outreach teams to sort of think through what the problem really is in Tennessee versus Texas versus Utah. Could you talk just a little bit about that?
Yeah, so we've really worked to build a strategic plan to really think about healthcare and healthcare delivery and access to healthcare through a regional approach, looking at both the rural communities. So starting with those very rural communities that had almost 30% of their hospitals closed during pandemic. So you're in the middle of a global pandemic, you're just as sick as everyone else. And when you go down the street to the hospital, it's closed because you don't have any access to healthcare or healthcare providers. So we're really thinking about that as we've taken that on. We consider WGU and the College of Health Professions to be well suited to create and close those barriers and create access for those future practitioners. We've also thinking about the cities, the larger metropolitan cities that, although they may have a lot of universities and colleges, the students who really want to enter in the workforce may be somewhat timid about accomplishing a degree. And so we've created pathways through our certifications in value-based care, behavioral health care, to allow them to enter in without the fear of trying to accomplish a large degree.
Yeah.
So it's really bits and pieces. So although you may live in an urban area, that doesn't mean you feel like you can go to that large university. One reason is you may not be able to afford that, but the other is really the confidence. What I found as a diverse educator and also a diverse person, that the issue that we most often deal with is the confidence level for the students. And so we want to empower them by creating pathways for them to enter in to our programs. And then at the same time, they're accomplishing little bits and pieces of knowledge that will lead them to be able to then map that into a degree if they so choose to.
Yeah. That is incredibly powerful, Janelle. I just love that word.
It's exciting. And Jan began that work, so I can't take any credit for it, but I totally will keep on going with the ship. That's for sure. With her help, of course.
Yes. Awesome. So this segment will be coming out in May, which is when we celebrate National Nurses Week and the birthday of Florence Nightingale. And this year, the National League for Nursing has declared it the Year of the Nurse Educator.
Okay.
So you two are going to be well celebrated, I hope. Can you each talk a little bit about your own personal backgrounds in the fields of nursing and in health education, and sort of give us a sense of where your passion is coming from?
I'll take a stab at that. I think, for me, my early background in nursing was as a nurse administrator in a hospital. And so I was very involved in practice, and then I became involved in policy level, national policy level work. And what I kept seeing in that work was that education was not really in the discussion as much as it should be. It was really sort of they're going to bring us new nurses and it'll all be good. And I think one of the things that's missing even today in the workforce discussion, and kudos to the NLN for highlighting this, is that without some reform in the role of the nurse educator and how nursing educators are honored, supported, and developed, the nursing shortage is just going to continue to be a way of life for us. Yeah. So I think, part of what I hope happens during this year is that people really start to look at the role of the nurse educator. And I personally love our model because I feel like we've made the education role, whether as an instructor or a mentor, we've made that, created it in such a way that you can choose the part that you love, that you are really good at as an educator, whether it's non-cognitive mentoring or subject matter expertise, and you can really go deep into that and you don't have to do everything. And so the lifestyle considerations and the job satisfaction, I think, are issues that need to be resolved.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, I've had this great opportunity. I began my career as a pediatric ICU nurse, and so worked in level 1 trauma and did life support. And that was kind of my interest in education began there because I always volunteered myself to take the students. And so I would take the students and really get to see the light bulb moment actually at the bedside. And so that was exciting. And I've actually taught every level of nursing. I started teaching licensed practical nurses, and then have taught everything, and then kind of transitioned to higher level academia, and have really had the value. I have taught in traditional classrooms most of my career. And so I have had the opportunity, I say to people all the time, I was born to be a nurse and blessed to be an educator. And so I've had the blessing of seeing children and being beside them as they take their last breath. And I've also had the blessing of being beside this mom of 5 children walk across the stage and finally take a deep breath because she's accomplished everything she needed to accomplish. And so it's an amazing journey. I'm very proud to be a nurse educator. I have taught every level of student from every background and experience. And it really helps me value what I do now, and the responsibility that I have is not lost on me. And the reason I even chose to go into higher level academia is because I wanted to transform how we educate students and how we think about students holistically and really make a dynamic impact and understanding the value of the nurse educator. And Jan's right. We had 76,000 students that were qualified, quote unquote, for nursing programs returned and not allowed to start because we didn't have enough educators and our clinical space. So, I mean, we literally have people knocking at the door and we're not letting them in. Because we need to value the nurse and the nurse educator. And so I'm excited that we get to celebrate our educators this year. We'll get to spend a lot of time really recognizing what they've done, the impact that we make. I am so proud of WGU because for the College of Health, our program mentors are really thinking from a holistic approach. So the social emotional support that the student needs and our course instructors spend the time to really understand the content and really support the students' learning and helping them learn how they learn, right? And so that's exciting. I cannot wait. And as an educator myself, I'm super excited that we get this year to really showcase the work that many of us have done. I can't tell you how many times I have come into the office. I used to come in at midnight when a student had to work and they couldn't have any time to study. And I'd come in and study with them or teach them a new concept or put the sim lab on at 1 a.m. and work with them because they were scared of a type of item type on an assessment. And I would teach it to them using, because most nurses are kinesthetic analytical. So we like to touch and feel. And so I'd go in and bring them into the lab. And so it's just that exciting thing to really reflect this year on all that's brought us this far and what we have to come. And the great responsibility that we have at the College of Health Professions to really close the gap and to transform nursing education. So super excited. I'm glad you mentioned it. It's just a very exciting time for us this year, a really time to reflect and think about our future and how we're going to really close the gap, but also propel and celebrate our educators this year. Super exciting time.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
I know you guys are on it. And you've made so much progress. I'm so excited to see what comes next. You are both spectacular. And I am in awe of everything that you do and that you bring to WGU and that you bring to the world around you. So thank you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.